Hello, I am Morgan Knull with Feed Your Genes.
And I'm Dr. Penny Kendall-Reed with generx.ca.
So, Dr. Penny, today I want to talk about stress and anxiety. These are really big topics right now. Well, they're always big topics, but specifically right now, I'm seeing just a flood of posts and support on social media posts from healthcare practitioners, really supporting their patients and clients through these hard times. Um, So I want to ask you to discuss how genetics impact our stress response.
Mhm. Genetics play a huge role in our stress response. And, you're right, this is so timely right now. And there's so much going on in the world. And everybody's response to it is different. I mean, we all see this with our patients, with our family. Two people go through a scenario. One person gets anxiety or panic attacks, while the other one seemingly is fine. Or we see it with the military. When they return back, some soldiers have PTSD, others don't. And why is this? Well, the answer does lie in our genes. Our genetics determine how much stress hormone we make for each stressor and then how quickly we clear it out. So if somebody makes more than the normal amount for stressor A and doesn't clear it out very well, they have a larger volume of stress hormone binding into the body for a longer period of time, having a big effect. But what's more important than that are the genes that determine how quickly one will turn off further production of the stress hormone itself, i.e., turning off the HPA axis. And that is key. And there's a couple of genes, FKBP5 and NR3C2. And what these talk about are the number of receptors on the hypothalamus and the pituitary that can bind in those stress hormones once the stressor is over and stimulate that negative feedback within the HPA or hypothalamic pituitary axis, and thus stopping further production of stress hormones. People who are variant or even heterozygote, they actually have much fewer receptors. So they have less spots to say, let's turn off further production. So they get stuck producing these stress hormones on and on and on. There's another one, CRHR1, which talks about how many receptors there are on the hypothalamus for cortical releasing hormone. And here the variants have a lot more receptors, so a lot more sites to bind in and say, quick, stimulate CRH, which then stimulates that HPA axis. These are really what determine somebody's response within stress, how long it lasts, are they prone to general anxiety disorder, PTSD, etc., and who needs that extra support, particularly during times like this, so it doesn't get blown up into a big panic attack.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. I mean, through my genetics and exploring those with you over the years, I am variant for that, and I've experienced those big reactions and the PTSD probably throughout my whole life, and knowing that and supporting myself through that has made me feel extremely prepared for everything that's going on, and it's put me in a better emotional state and a better place of really understanding to be able to cope.
That's a really good point. It makes a big difference. And so you can learn to control your behaviors a little bit better when you don't have that hormonal output, but you also can forecast it. You can see it coming and you can say, okay, I know what I need to do here. I know what this means, and I understand what's going on.
Yeah, and in my case, that's very true. So
Mhm.
um, a question I have is, when I'm creating a meal plan, stress is always a question mark for me if it's someone who wants to lose weight.
Mhm.
And, my response is, I need to see how you're processing your stress. I need to look at these other SNPs in order to see how weight loss is really going to work. It's not as simple as just looking at a few food SNPs. So in that regard, if someone's not taking care of their stress response, can they really make any changes in weight management or sleep?
Absolutely, they can. So, first off, you're absolutely right. We need to look at the stress response because cortisol increases the release of insulin to carbohydrates, simple carbs. So, it means that when someone's under stress and making too much hormone, they treat one apple like three apples or one cookie like three cookies. So, we need to rein that in. Cortisol will also decrease the rate of metabolism from 92% all the way down to 35% from a variety of different variables. So, we have to get on top of that. But some other simple things that we can put into place, and we have no excuse not to do them right now with extra time on our hands: sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. I can't say it enough. Sleeping just 1 hour less per night, so 7 hours versus 8 hours, within 4 days will increase our insulin response by 40%. Sleeping 7 hours versus 8 hours within 2 weeks will increase obesity by 6%, entirely independent of diet and exercise. So get that sleep in there. We have to. Balancing blood sugars, get that protein in again. And again, look at the FTO gene to see how much you need. But protein will stabilize the blood sugars, stop it from spiking, which will then stop the stress response. As well, it will also slow down the delivery of carbohydrates at that meal, so we feel more satisfied for a longer period of time. That exercise, deep breathing, laughing, we all need to. We started talking just before we went on video, how we're watching funny shows right now and not sort of depressing or violent shows. Get out there and laugh again. Those are all things we can do to help manage stress, which then helps manage the weight.
Yeah, and like we talked about before, just that really the awareness of you need that extra hour of sleep, or you got to get that protein right. And you know, we might not be doing it all perfect all the time, but if we're aware of it and we can have those really healthy intentions, I think it's a great start, especially now if we, you know, when we have time to do so.
Absolutely.
So for me, I use the GeneRx app. And the reason I do that is because of the algorithms that take all the SNPs into account and then create, you know, a summary and a protocol for me. And I see a lot, you know, we're looking at one SNP and trying to deal with that, and then another SNP and trying to deal with that. Now with stress response and with diet, we can really see how it is so important to look at all of them together and how they behave together before we start looking at supporting someone. Can you just get into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually why I designed GeneRx, was because of the integration of SNPs. You can't treat a gene single by single. The stress was a perfect example. Product in, hormone out, right? How much are we making? How much are we clearing? That determines the balance of it. But it gets even more complicated when you start looking at pathways like detoxification. So there's several different genes within phase 1 detoxification, several different genes within phase 2. And if you're only looking at one of them and it's normal, well, what about the rest? What if they're all variant or heterozygote? You have to look at the compilation of them. Then you have to look at the rate of your phase 1 pathway versus your phase 2 pathway. Do they balance? And thus, are you actually generating more inflammatory products, or are you clearing them out? If you're not clearing them out well, then we create inflammation in the body. So then we have to look at all of our inflammatory SNPs, because if we start creating more inflammation through the detox SNPs or the stress SNPs, now we have to look at the inflammation SNPs. Are you tipping those off now? And they're also variant, augmenting that inflammatory load. And it all goes around. We know our body's one unit. We have to treat it like one unit. Treating genes using genetics is no different.
Absolutely. And it, you know, it reminds me when I am trying to create someone's meal plan and I'm jumping ahead to detox pathways and I'm jumping ahead to stress response, and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I need to see, like, are we cooking those cruciferous veg? Are we taking that stress into account? Like, these are really important things so that we can help people achieve their goals.
Absolutely. And particularly when it comes to diet, there's some really simple changes. Your example, cooking cruciferous vegetables. If I eat them raw, it increases my inflammation. Other people need to eat them raw to get the benefit from them. So it's very simple, but yet it's very powerful.
Exactly. It just goes to show how important it is to look at everything together rather than things on their own. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Penny,
My
for your
pleasure.
time today. It's always such a treat. And you and I are going to keep sending out these little videos for anyone who wants to watch them.
We certainly are.
All right. Thanks a lot.